And tutorial number 4 focuses on graphic design with CSS. So some of the things that you will be learning about over here in this unit would be how to make your pictures look prettier, how to improve the look and feel of your background, how to add text shadow, box shadow, apply more than one colors, like do gradient effects with colors, and move pictures on axis kind of stuff, and apply some CSS filters and apply image maps. Those are some of the main focal points for this chapter. Okay, so to get started, what I would like you to do is go to the learning units and you will download stuff for this week, which is located under tutorial number 4. And you will download this in-class tutorial 4 zipped file. And then you will unzip it. Let me know when you're ready. And you can give me a green check that you're ready when you're ready. So right now, what you see on my screen, I opened the landing page of the website, which is komatsu.html.
Where is it?
So we're still waiting for 3 more people to be ready. As soon as Bart, Angelica, and Desmond will be ready, we'll start. And for those of you who are done unzipping it and are opening the files, I asked to open komatsu.html file. In the komatsu.html file, right at the top, you will find the 3 CSS. The reset one, which resets everything on the page. Styles one, which styles the page. And the visual one.css is where we will apply some visual appeal to the page, which currently does not exist on the page. So if you go to the reset page, it's basically the same way we had it last week. We are resetting some of the properties to their bare basics, setting them to the default values. Bart, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, sorry. For some reason, I'm just having trouble with it.
Trouble with unzipping?
Yeah.
Or downloading or opening?
Just unzipping. in class tutorial. Okay, I think I got it.
Okay. So as you guys study the reset.css, right after that, I want you to then go to and start reading the page itself, right at the, so that you know what tags are there, what IDs are there, and then we will learn about what properties we are applying. So as you begin to see the header section, you will see that there is a navigation, there is a top link navigation, and then there is another navigation, which is horizontal class, because there will be more than one navigations called horizontal, and it will also have an ID called main links, which is specifically for this particular item. And then as you start scrolling down, there is something that you will see that you have not seen before. And this is something very specific to this chapter, which is about creating an image map. You might have visited websites where there is an image and you can click on different areas of the image and it takes you to different places or different pages. That's exactly what we call image maps. So what we have done here is we created an image map on this picture, which is the tbkomatsu.png. So if you go to the actual picture, TP Komatsu. Here, this one, okay? This is like a family picture. So what we have done is we would like each one of their faces to be clickable. As we click on their faces, it will take us to those web pages which are about that family member. So this idea is called the image map. So what we have done here is we have created a map and we have given it a name called family map. And we have created a bunch of rectangular clickable links. And these are the coordinates on that picture that we have picked. Usually there are tools to do that. And then these are the links to which you will go to when you click on these coordinates on the picture. And what we have done with the picture is that we have told the picture that you are clickable through an image map, and the name of your map is family map. So it automatically knows that this is where it needs to get its coordinates from, clickable coordinates from. So just so that you guys can see how it looks like, if you open it in maybe like Firefox, for example, and you go to this web page, you will see that each one of their faces is clickable. You hover over and click on their face. You go to that page. You go back. You click on another person's face. You go to their page. And that's exactly how we are making this happen. That each one of these coordinates is linked to the pages. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Then there is a section which is ID'd left column. That's where you see the Genta Komatsu was born in Hadano, Japan, all of that information, the 2 paragraphs. Followed by that, there is an A side, which has all these family links. And this is automatically appearing nicely placed because we already learned about this stuff in tutorial number 3, which is float left stuff. That information can, and then followed by towards the bottom, you see a nice footer. All of this information can be easily looked for in styles1.css. So if you go to styles1 and start scrolling, you will start seeing the properties we learned about in the last week's tutorial. So I want you to go over styles1 and map it with the different tags in komatsu.html. This will give you a way to review last week and also be able to see what is affecting what on the output. And I'll clear your feedback so that you can give me a new feedback when you're done reviewing. only for styles, the relationship between styles 1 and Komatsu. After that, what do you remember the whole purpose behind lines 189 through 193? This was in tutorial number 3.
Isn't that to keep the container from collapsing when it's full?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Now, let's look at the other CSS, which is about visual 1. And now that CSS will be empty because that is the focus for this chapter, is to learn about that. That's why that particular one is empty. And that's the one that we will be building. So as we start building different areas, we will go and refresh the output so that you can see what we are building. Figure. What exactly is a figure element? The figure element is typically used around an image so that you can add the image and the figure caption, and they can be put in the same container. That's the whole point of having a figure. And that was added in HTML5. We never had it like in the earlier versions of HTML. And so fig caption was also added in HTML5. HTML5 have added a lot of these tags. Anyway, to get started here in the figure, if I put border style solid, save the changes and simply refresh the output, okay? Right now, you do not see any solid line because I have not given any width. So the solid line is in place, but the moment I give a border width of, let's say, 25 pixels, now you see it. Okay, not the prettiest thing because we're still building it. Okay, now next step. You can also, in CSS, use an image to be used as a border. So we will be using this image called tb_border.png. 50 pixels, repeat. And here you go. Cool, he's in it.
What does the 50 repeat part of that do?
Okay, we will get to that part.
Okay.
Okay. Before I get to that, in your books, I want you to go to page number 264. On page number 264, it talks about exploring background styles. And that is the property that we used, background image. You can give a URL, property, value, and that will be the name of a picture that you want to use as the background. That's a bare basic property. It also has what we call a background repeat. What did we use? We said repeat in our case, in the example that we are building. However, it has many values that you can give. Repeat means I want to constantly repeat the background over and over again. Repeat X, I only want to display, because if the picture is smaller, it makes sense to choose a direction. I want to only repeat on the X-axis. I want to only repeat on the Y-axis. I do not want to repeat. I want to repeat round. That means background image is styled and resized to fit in the container a whole number of times. And then with a space, allow you to put a space between each iteration that it fills with. So that's basically the tiles. We use the repeat tile. Okay, moving on. So you have adding a background image, or you can have a background repeat. You can do it in two separate properties, or you could do it the way we did it. We wrote border image, and then we just simply listed all of them in one place. Okay, we'll get to that. Okay. Okay, now let's go further. Okay. Background attachment is another property. What that does is, if you have a picture and you want to use it as a background of the text, but when you scroll the text down, you want to give the look and feel that the picture in the background is fixed and the text is scrolling on top of it. That's more or less like a watermark effect. So that's basically what background attachment does. It attaches the background. Background positioning allow you to position the background in different places on the page, horizontal or vertical. Those are, the positioning of the background. Okay, now before I go further into it, let me take you to page 274. On page 274, it talks about the bordering styles. We use a border style of solid in our example, but we also have a dash style, a dotted style, a double, outset, inset, groove, and ridge. These are the 8 different bordering styles. Is it possible that I can have a different border for top and bottom and different border for left and right? And the answer is yes. What you will do is, if you write different bordering styles for each one of, like, if you write 4 values, it just goes like this: top, right, bottom, left. If you write 2 values, then the first value becomes the top and the bottom, and the second value becomes the right and the left. And you can give one property where you can just fit everything. You can give the width, the style, and the color all in one place. But again, in our case, we did separate properties of border style and border width. Okay. Oh, here are some more properties. You can actually write properties specifically for a side. Like you can say border left, border right, border bottom, border top, and you can give each one of them their own unique values. We can also do that. Okay. Now, where do I want to take you guys next? Page number 281. Page number 281 is the property that we are currently working with. It is called the border image property. So the border image property, it takes three parameters: the URL that you want to use as a border. You're talking about 50, right? That 50 is what we call slice, which we'll explain about in just a minute. And repeat is if you want it to be repeated. Slice is actually the width and height of the slice used to create the sides and corners. And repeat indicates whether the side slices should be stretched or tiled to cover the border's four sides. So for example, if you use repeat, it means the slices are tiled to fill each side. So what you're basically doing is, if you look at your actual image, the actual image name is TB_border. Okay. This is the image you're using. You're using this image in 50 size 50 slices. And you are using that to repeatedly fill the entire border in 50 pixels or 50 boxes, slices. So that's how our output comes out like this. Do you see anything repeating in the bottom? Notice this guy. Do you see a little, this area? Look at it. It repeats again. And then it repeats again. But on the actual image, it's only there only once. Okay. So that's what it does. So for example, the following style cuts 10 pixel wide slices from the frame.png image file with 4 side slices stretched to cover the length of the 4 sides of the image object border. Because you're stretching it, which is the slices are stretched to fill each side, where the slices are tiled to fill each side. So that's the main difference. Stretch versus tiled. So the corners are sliced so that the corners only get to repeat once. The middle pieces are repeatedly done till it fills the whole box. Does that make sense? That the corners are sliced. So we are taking a slice of 50. So the corners don't get to repeat. And that's exactly what you will see in the final output here, that the corners don't get to repeat. The rest of it repeats to fill. Again, does that make sense to you guys?
It makes sense. You said the corners are 20 pixel corners. Is that also adjustable?
Well, we use 50 and here it is 20. Yeah, I mean, like you can choose a number by which you want to slice. So we are choosing a size 50.
Okay.
Okay. After that, let's move on to our next property here, which we already learned in the previous unit, which is margin. 20 pixels, auto 0 pixels. What do you think I'm doing here? What will this do?
Is it gonna center the image again?
The first value is always right. So it's right 20 pixels. So the second value is top. No, sorry. No, you're right. You're top, right. Yeah, you're right. Top, and then the right and left are center. Yes, you're right. So it'll gonna center the picture. So top, right, left, and bottom will be 0 pixels, right? Yeah. If you want your picture to have some opacity, look at it, the picture got a little lighter in tone because it got a little opacity. So your background sort of kind of reflects from within. Okay. And you can see that to some extent, your background reflection right here, the grayish tone. And now I'm adjusting the width of the picture to 80% so that it nicely fits in the area. Okay, now let's come to the second one, which is image. We want the image to be a block item, and we want image to take 100% width of its container. Okay, so what happens before and after? I want you to pay attention. Before this change, you could see a little gray area on the right-hand side because the image was not covering the entire container. With image going 100%, it is now covering the whole container. Now we'll talk about the actual figure caption, which is at the bottom. Background color. We want this to be italic. With center aligned text. Guys, what is the difference between margin and padding? Margin versus padding.
Margin's the outside and padding's the inside.
Inside of what?
I forgot what it's called. It's that box or whatever of like the content.
Okay, cool. So if I add padding, that adds a little bit of a space at the top and the bottom, 10 pixels. Now let's come to the actual page, the entire HTML page. So whatever I apply will apply to the whole page. So this time I'll use a background image. We already saw that property earlier in this tutorial. And we'll use a URL, tb_back1.png. And you can see that it repeats itself as many times to fill as much area as it needs to fill. Okay. Before I move further, let's go back to our textbook. Page number 270, which talks about the background property. The background property allows you to give a color as a background, an image as a background, which you will use a URL for. You can position the background like vertical, horizontal, wherever you want to position it, center, left, right, whatever you want to position. Slash the size, however big you want your picture to be, whatever size you want the background to be. And then you can choose if you want to repeat it, whatever attachment property you want to assign to it, you want it to be fixed or moving. And on top of that, you can also decide to see if you want to clip anything out of it. So for example, here, the origin defines how positions are measured on the background, and clip specifies the extent over which the background is spread. So for example, this particular example follows a rule where the background color is set to ivory, and then it uses the draft.png file as a background, a layer on top of the color as a background image. It is fixed at the horizontal and vertical center of the page. And sized at 10% of the body's width and height. The rest of the property sets the image not to repeat and to use the content box for defining the background origin and clipping. And note that the page body will have an ivory background color at any location where the draft.png image is not displayed. If you don't specify all of the option values, the browser will assume the default values for the missing options. Thus, the following style rule places the draft.png at the horizontal and vertical center of the page body without tiling, because you said no repeat, no tiling. And you did not set any percents. What do you think this will do? It will place the image tb_back.png in the bottom right-hand side corner of the content box, whichever box it is to be placed in, with a 50% width of the page. Okay, so if you want, let's say, this picture to go in the bottom right corner of the page, it will do that. So you basically are treating a picture as a border, as a background, and you are moving that background to a certain location in the page, this gives you a power of having multiple backgrounds. One background you put in the top right corner, one background you put in the bottom left corner, and you can control having multiple backgrounds you can place in different places within your container. And we will try to do that with our example as well, that we will put multiple backgrounds for our example in different places. Okay. So let's go to our example here in the article section. We'll have a background. URL tb_back2.png. I want it to be in the bottom right corner, the 15% width, no repeat, and should be in the content box. Okay. If I just leave it like this and I refresh, okay, this is in the bottom right corner, this image, tb_back2.png, doesn't repeat, only appears in one corner. If I want to add multiple backgrounds, I can just simply put a comma here, and I can repeat everything to the, to the right of the colon. This will be my another background that I'm adding to the list. And I say my second background will be another picture, which I want to put on the bottom left corner as opposed to bottom right corner. The rest of the properties are exactly the same. Save and refresh. Notice the other picture appears in the other corner as a border, as a background, sorry, as a background. And if I want to add more backgrounds, I can say, okay, my next background is picture number 4. Which will be 100% of the width. That'll cover and will not repeat. Okay, see this background at the bottom, like right behind everything. It takes over 100% and doesn't repeat. It covers the whole area. And whatever is left could be covered with this, but there isn't anything left. But you can always give, in case if somebody turns off the pictures, because there are some browsers where you can turn off the pictures, you will still get to see at least some background, which will be that last option, a light gray color. Everybody got this to work?
Yep.
Now let's move on to our next topic, which is on page number 290. I'm not going cover to cover, but I'm just building an example, and that example has pieces of code in different places within the chapter. Okay. So page 290 talks about a property called box shadow, which takes 4 properties, where color, offset X, offset Y, and blur have the same meaning. Like you have a background color for your shadow, that's your color. Offset X and offset Y is how much you want this shadow to be displaced away from the box, and the blur effect that you want to have. it is quite possible for you to have multiple shadows for the same image. So we could have a box shadow of this color, and I want to be placing this on this location, and another box shadow, I want to be placing it on another location. So this will be a box shadow to the right, and that'll be the box shadow to the left. Because of the negative value, I want to put it outside the box. So that's how you can be giving box shadows, which we'll add as our next property here. Box shadow inset, bit of a darker color. And refresh, okay? Where do you see this box shadow? You probably will see the corner. You see the corner having a color, a blurry color that is getting casted inside, inward. That's because of the -10 effect, the -10.
Going back to your background images, I'm checking my code, mine didn't pop up.
Your background images, like the pictures of the two people,
Right,
are not coming up for you.
right, yep, I'm just checking what you got on your screen now.
Okay. Make sure that you have commas and don't put semicolons between them.
Yep, I got that.
Okay. And also make sure that you do not have any gap between the L and the parentheses. It's next to each other. For URL and the parentheses.
As far as I can tell, I'm not seeing anything that's incorrect spacing or otherwise.
Okay, I can have a look at it if you want to share. Okay.
It's an underscore after TB, not a dash.
Oh, yeah. You're, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Thanks.
That's it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. So now we will put a comma here. And let me copy these properties and paste them again here. And this time I will change it to +10 pixels. And you will see this time that how the inset fills the other, like the top and the left. Previously, it was filling the right and the bottom. Now it's filling the, it's because what we want to do is in the top and the left, when you give a positive values, they cast the shadow inwards. For right and the bottom, when you give a positive values, they cast the shadow outwards. If you want the right and the bottom to cast the shadow inwards, you got to do negative numbers. The previous topic in the book, which is right before the box shadow, is a text shadow. So I just went to the previous page. Text shadow is applying the shadow on the text. It takes a color, it takes an offset of X, offset of Y, and blur, whatever blurring you want to do. Okay. So that's basically, this is how it works. And let's get to our example here with text shadow right here. And we're going to call this one red, green, blue. So the top picture, the top text Komatsu family, that will have a little text shadow behind it. So this will add a very thin black line on the left-hand side of the body. Similarly, adding something very similar on the right. Adding the box shadow. Which will add this glowing shadow in the outside of the body. Okay, everybody got this?
Yeah, do you have an extra closing curly brace in your body?
Oh, you're right. Thank you. In your books, I want you to do some reading. What is gradient color? Gradient color is when you have, instead of solid, you have a mix of colors, that you want to mix multiple colors to create colored backgrounds. That's what's called a gradient effect. So I would like you guys to do some reading about gradients in your book, starting from page number 296, okay, all the way through page 302. So probably till the end of this page, and then the next page. So page 296, starting from page 296 through 302. And let me know when you guys are done reading that information. Okay, so after reading these pages, what do you guys think about the gradient colors?
Looks like you've got a lot of control to be able to do whatever you want as far as background colors.
Exactly. Did you guys also read about the radial gradient?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So in radial gradient, instead of linear, you start from the center and then you start coming outwards. So that's a radial gradient. And then you can, yeah, you can do a lot of things with this stuff. And we will try to do some of that with our example here. So let me share my screen again here. And let's go to this A side area, which is family links. And in the A side, we will apply the background as also shown in the book, what you were reading. We'll have a radial gradient. Start out with white. We'll transition to a green. And even darker green. Oh, we 222, not 122. 222, yeah. Border 4 pixel double border radius. What does border radius do? It just curves the corners 30 pixels. So when you refresh after that, you will see that the corners are curved. And that adds a box shadow. And finally, coming down to the footer, we'll add a background of linear gradient. (345 degrees). Another green color. Okay, everybody got this? Okay. Still waiting for maybe 2-3 people. Okay, so we have Miguel and Desmond. Okay. Now I want you to visit ikko.html, ikko.html. That page relies on reset. We already know how that looks like. And styles2.css. So first study this page of Ikko, and then go to styles2.css. And I want you to build a bridge between the two. It's a completed page. There isn't anything that you would have to add to the styles2. But styles2 doesn't all apply to this Ikko page. Styles2 is used in more than one pages. And let me know when you are done studying the Ikko page and styles2, and also visit Ikko. This is the Ikko's page. Okay, that's Ikko's page. Okay. When you're done with Ikko, then move on to mica.html and study it the same way. Again, Mica is also based on styles2 and reset. There isn't much. It's very similar to Ikko. And that should be a very quick study and you will get it. It's just almost similar. Then you can go to Hiroji. Once you are done with Hiroji, you can go to Suzuko.html, and that's also very similar. So Iko, Maika, Hiroji, and Suzuku are very, very, I mean, like almost similar pages. All four of them. Iko, Maika, Hiroji, and Suzuko. Let's go to Genta next. Genta. Genta looks different. In fact, let's open Genta here. Genta works with styles 2, which we have already explored, but also works with visual 2. But before we go to the visual 2, let's study and understand what tags are available in the Suzuko 2. So that when we start working with visuals 2, we know exactly what we are working with. So we have a figure called figure 1 as an ID. And then we have, oh, no, not, sorry, I should agenda. Okay. So we have figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. We have 3 separate figure IDs. Okay. Now, before I start working with the properties here, I need to dive back into the chapter and learn about a few more things before we can start working with this stuff. So let's go to page 312. Which talks about the transformations, transforming objects. So transform
What
is
page are you on? I
page,
didn't hear you.
page 312.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the transform property allows you to move the entire picture by offsetting it from its original location. Or you can do translate X, so only you offset the X or only offset the Y. Or you can scale the picture. You can resize the object by a factor. Or you can resize the object only by the X factor or only by the Y factor. In that case, your picture could go like squished or vertically or horizontally if you do scale X, Y only. Or you can skew the picture. The skew means like you're rotating it on the Z axis, sort of, kind of, not really though, but this is a skew. It's just like squishing it like that. And this is rotating it. You can rotate it on whatever degrees you want to rotate this. So all of these are part of your transform properties. So if I go back to my code here and in figure 1, and I say, okay, I want to transform my figure 1 by rotating the x-axis 30 degrees. Oops. Okay. This is only with rotate X. And this is with translate Z. And there's another property I can add, which is called a perspective. Perspective property. Okay, that basically changes the perspective, like make the picture go in infinity sort of kind of look. So you've changed the perspective to 600 pixels. So when you're transforming it, then it is applying that perspective. And then can apply some box shadow colors. And as you can see that it added the box shadow to the image. For my second picture, I want to transform, but this time I want to rotate the picture, not only on the x-axis alone, but rotate it negative 40 degrees and scale it down. So you'll see that the size shrinks and it actually rotates on axis. Negative 40 degrees, scale 0.08. Oh, my bad. Give the comma. Oh, yeah.
Do you need a semicolon at the end of line 29?
No, no, it's the same property with all the values. I forgot the comma between 20 pixels and a negative 100 pixels. So that's why I did not get the correct output. We'll make the figure number 3 rotate the other direction. So we're using a positive rotation. Oh, translates. It should be. Yeah. And when you're done with this code and can see the desired output, I want you to read these 3 pages, 316 through 318 that I posted in the chat, which is about transformations in 3 dimensions and understanding the perspectives. After that, I want you to transition to page number 320. Page 320. Page 320 talk about CSS built-in filters. So CSS allows you to blur the picture, increase its brightness, add a value to a contrast, maybe add a drop shadow, make it grayscale. You can do hue rotate, which adjusts the hue by angle in the color wheel, where 0 degree leaves the hue unchanged, 180 degrees display the complementary colors, and 360 degrees again leaves the hue unchanged. And then invert, which simply inverts the colors, like X-ray. And then opacity can change the opacity of the image, which we already tried on the front page. Saturate, adjust the color saturation, and sepia displays the color sepia tone, which is like a blue, like brownish tone. And the URL loads an SVG filter file from URL. So here you can see some of the examples of CSS filters. None, sepia, saturate, blur, hue rotate, and invert. And we will apply some of these filters on the pictures on the grandpa's page, which is Genta Komatsu. So we'll go down to the filter styles, and we will apply a filter. And you can see how his picture changed. To the second one, we will apply a filter of grayscale. So one will apply in a complete grayscale. As you can see, this picture is the figure number 2 is a complete grayscale. And figure number 3, the filter saturate. Where saturate adjusts the colors, color values between 0 to 1. Decrease the saturation and values greater than 1, increase the saturation. So if I want to increase the saturation, I'll use a color, let's say 1.5. And that makes the saturation increase on the picture. Similarly, I can apply multiple filters at the same time. So I can also say I want to apply the contrast. And the contrast also between 0 to 1, it decreases the contrast, and a value over 1 increases the contrast. And here we have increased the contrast and the saturation.
How come there's no semicolon after grayscale?
Oh, I missed it. CSS is very forgiving.
Because it still worked.
It works because that's the only property. If there were more than one properties, I'll start making a big deal about that. We already worked with image maps, but I want you to read these pages in the book. Pages 324 through 326, which is what basically made us click on the faces of each one of the persons in the family and go and visit their individual page. And let me know when you're done reading pages 324 through 326. So as you have learned in these pages that rectangle that we used in our example is not the only one to go with, you can also use circle as one of the other options. And you can also use a polygon. So those are the two other things that are shared with you on page 326 in figures 460 and 461. So there are multiple ways you can design this stuff. Okay. How about let's take a break here. Let's take a break till 7:45 and then we will resume at 7:45. Okay, that does completes our example, so it's a good time to take a break. So I'll see you guys in 20 minutes.
One quick question for you.
Yes.
Saad.
Yes.
If you're using the polygon and you fail to close your polygon, does the hotspot no longer work?
Well, it will still work. Again, HTML is very forgiving. It's just like, certain areas will not be hoverable. It's just
Okay,
like
so-
you may
so
have
it'll
some
just-
logical problems, basically.
Sure. Okay.
Cool. I will share my screen and you guys can check your answers. Can you guys read?
Poorly, but yes.
How about now?
Yeah, still good.
Okay. So these are the first 3 questions from session 4.1. I'll scroll down when you guys are done reviewing these 3 items. So this will be 4 and 5.
For 5, is just specifying logo as your first. Does that automatically put it on top? Or does
So
it need
it is
cover?
it is displaying logo in the top left
Uh-huh.
and is not repeating. And then the side.png is top left, but it's repeating Y.
It also specified that the logo should be on top though. Like, will that end up on top, or is there like another specification?
Logo and side PNG in the top left corner. So yes, they will appear in the top left corner. And side.png will only repeat on the y-axis, so not going to overlap the logo. So it will come right after it. So logo will be in the top left, and then after logo will be your side.png will repeat all the way on the y-axis. And the rest of the area will be colored with ivory. And that's number 6 and 7. and 8. And 9. Everybody done with this one?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna now move on to page 309, which is session 4.2. These are the first 3 questions. This is up to question number 5. Oh, it should be. Lower left. Lower left, okay. And 6 through 9. So now we will move on to session 4.3, page 330. And these are the first 8. And the last one. Okay. Everybody got that? Because next we will move on to one of the cases from the end of the chapter 4, case problem number 2. I've given you another zip file. If you go to tutorial number 4 and scroll down to the bottom, and if you were already there, then you may have to refresh for you to see this new file. It's called a case 2. You download the zip file and unzip it, and then we will start to make some modifications to the CSS. So in tutorial number 4, scroll down and download the case 2 in class. Download it, unzip it. And this is how it looks like right now. It looks pretty cool the way it is right now, but we're gonna improve the look and feel of this further. So yeah, give me a green check when you guys have uploaded all 4 files in your editor. There are 3 CSS documents and 1 HTML file. And once you got it, then I want you to start studying the HTML file and checking it with the output as to what areas in the HTML document refers to what areas in the output, just so that you have some basic idea. So I'll clear your feedback for you to give me a new feedback when you're done reviewing the HTML document. And just so that you know, the base.css is pretty much like a reset.css. It is setting the base properties for the page. And next to it is layout.css, and layout.css pretty much makes everything happen the way you see it right now. Because the effects is, for the most part, empty. But the layout.css is where you can see the HTML background, the body background, the width, the header information, the top links. This whole look and feel looks like tabs. It's because of float right, margin, and a width. And then the top links, each item, individual item, is floating left and has a spacing, letter spacing. That's why these seems a little spread out. And they have a top margin, they have a width and text alignment. And if the link is visited or the link is an active link, then it has a different color. Sorry, if it is visited, it has a different color than if it's active. And when you hover over, it takes the same color as the active link. Then the navigation is placed where, you know, the ordered list, unordered list, and the list items, each one of them has the properties. And this is the tabs in the header, these items, okay? This is another pseudo class, first of type, that the very first list item in the header, that has a different background color. And that's how you make this automatically get a different background color with a little slightly different margin left, because this space to the left and the last of the type, which is messages, automatically gets a right margin of 2%. Then comes to the section on the left-hand side, which is categories, and applies the properties to the categories. The vertical navigation. So again, you know, I want you to now study this on your own, the whole layout, the rest of the page. I've given you at least the top of the page information. Go over the rest of it and relate it to the different portions of your output. And let me know when you're done so that we can then build the effects page. Okay. Now let's go to the effects.css. And let's start looking at what we can do to change or apply some effects that we have learned in tutorial number 4. So first of all, we will apply box shadow effect. 10 pixels, 0 pixels, 50 pixels. RGB 51, 51, 51. Does that apply the shadow on the right hand side? Now, this is very similar to the shadowing that we applied to the main page of our tutorial example. If I want to apply the shadow inside, I got to use negative values, and that's what I'll use here as well. So if I use a negative 10 pixels and refresh, notice how shadow is getting casted on the other side because of the negative 10 pixels. This picture, SF_back1, that will be the background picture for my navigation in the header. So I will use background URL SF_back1.png and no repeat. See? Okay, right now I can see the picture a little bit. Okay, I need to work with some of its other properties to make it appear nicer. For example, background position is another property that could be used. And we can position it center, horizontally and vertically, so for it to appear right in the middle. And if I want it to take over the entire container, then I can use background size property and set it to cover. There you go. So it covers the whole area. Okay. Next, for the list items, I want to transform these by changing the perspective to 50 pixels and rotate the x-axis by 20 degrees, x-axis, not z-axis. And see this, how it appears? The text is slightly on the perspective of 50 pixels from rotation of 20 degrees on the x-axis. Everybody got it this far? Now let's go down to line 48 because 37 and 43 are already filled in, which is the background color when you hover over and the border of your vertical navigation. That stuff is already done. So the vertical navigation's heading 1 is where we would like to apply the border radius of 25 pixels. 25 pixels top right, 0 pixels bottom left. See that? How this curves? The top curves and the right curves, but the bottom and the left don't. Now let's get to the article. The article itself right now has a border of 1 pixel solid. If I want to give it a border radius of 50 pixels, see how it curves in from all 4 sides? And I can also give it a box shadow of 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, and a grayish tone. And that gives it a box shadow. So 10 pixels shadow displaced 10 pixels to the left and 20 pixels down on the y-axis. And that's the color of the shadow. Let's add also a background where we can give it a radial gradient color, white, 30%. I'm starting like, yeah, at till 30%. And then from there on, medium gray. So white starts because it's a radial gradient, so it starts right in the middle, 30%, and then transitions into gray for the rest. Where is the site image? So let's go down to site. Image. Okay. So that's right above the footer. Okay. And we have several images of all these reviewers and their sites. Okay, cool. Let's now, I know I will come back to the block code in just a minute. We will give each one of those site images a border radius of 50%. And you will see that all of these pictures automatically appear like circle because we have taken away 50%, and that automatically makes it a circle. Little changes, minor changes can make drastic impact on the look and feel. Okay, got it so far? Okay. Now let's go and look at who in the world is the block quote, right? The block quote is a tag that holds the image of all the stars. It has the comment, the picture, and the rest of the information, everything. That's all part of a block quote. So what we want to do is we want to give this block quote an image, a background image. So all occurrences of block quote will have this background image of sf_speech.png and no repeat. And there you go. We still need to fix it just so that you know, but at least you can see to some extent where it is happening. Next, I need to size it. Okay, see that? It sizes itself to the container 100% by 100%. And now I can give it a filter of drop shadow. And we're going to give it a dark color. Drop shadow. Oh, no, what did I do? Oops, I made a mistake. Drop shadow. Ah, there we go. All the region that it was part of the block quote was given this background. So the reviewer's picture and some of the other stuff is outside of the block quote. It's part of the site. So yeah. What do you guys think?
I like how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, looking better.
Mine got a little crazy. Somehow the image that we're using for the block quote took over the whole page and stuff looks weird.
Oh, it's taking over the whole page. Did you use the background size property?
I did.
Okay. Let's have a look at it. Why it's acting that way. But with CSS, as you can see, you can write one set of code, and wherever that pattern can be found, that code is applied, which is the neat thing. Okay.
Yeah, it was tracking fine until we got to the last couple.
No repeat background size. Oh, line number 64 should be just background, not background image.
Yep.
There you go.
That'll do it.
Okay. Cool. How about the rest of you? Everybody else got it too?
Yep. Don't like those pointy corners around categories, though. Maybe we'll
Uh,
work out a little bit.
Yeah, I know. With categories and also the related recipes have those domes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of gradients, honestly.
But you are a big fan of grading.
I like good styling.
But I mean, all I want you to guys to see is the power of CSS, you know. That's basically for a lot of this stuff you would have to use Photoshop before or other tools to make things look prettier. And now a lot of that stuff can be done right within CSS. So that's kind of nice. Okay, what did Wendy assign you this week? She said you still need to turn in the classwork like last week, the tutorial, you have a quiz. And
There's that in-class Yoda design. It's right. Go down right there on the assignment at the bottom there. It says upload the following. It says student Yoda,
oh,
which there's a download like a couple underneath there.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep going down.
Yeah, right there.
oh, okay. And she did not share that particular thing with me as to what that thing is.
And there's no instructions in there either.
Yeah, so you know what we're gonna do for now is I will send her a message that we didn't do the Yoda because I don't like Star Wars.
Ouch.
shame on you.
So
Do better, you must.
just for the sake of assignment, man, come on. So yeah, and I think other than that, she wants you to do a discussion, okay? And that should be all, right? Yeah. Any questions?
Seems pretty straightforward.
So what do you guys think about tutorial number 4? Your take, your reaction, your thoughts.
Yeah, I like how pretty you can make things. That's
Go ahead,
kind of,
Art.
oh yeah, I was just saying that I like how you can make things so pretty. I like it. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot more styling that you can do now that just really makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Now, you know, not everybody is in styling, you know, some people hate it, some people love it, some people are okay with it. So it's just like, you know, as a person, it varies from person to person. Next week will be our tutorial number 5. Tutorial number 5 is very important in a sense because it allows you to create websites for different devices. And you can change the look and feel of your website just through CSS. Based on the device that you are viewing your website on, it will use an appropriate CSS. So it's pretty much about designing for the mobile web. That's basically is the title of tutorial number 5. Okay. So I will be here next week as well. And that will be our last meeting before Wendy returns back for tutorial 6 on June 15th. Okay. So for now, that's all for tonight. And good night, everybody. Thank you.
I did get an update on the FTP. He's working on it. He said I might have to go into Gateway's VPN.
Okay.
But he's looking at it and testing it to see why it's not working for me.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Yeah, no
updating.
problem.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Angelica, can you also send an email to Wendy to tell
Yeah.
her that, you know, what's going on?
Yeah, I'll send her a follow-up. I sent her one beginning of class and then I'll let her know it didn't get solved today.
Okay, awesome. Cool.
Okay.
Cool, guys. Yeah.
Groovy. See you next week.
See ya. Take care.
See you.
Bye.
Next week.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Saad.
You're welcome.
Have a good one, Saad.
Have a good one, Louis.
Oh, I do have a question for you too.
Yep.
I see that you're a